Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Blue Jays Today, folks, where today, everybody, we got to celebrate because we won the back-to-back Team Gold Glove Award. Never been done before. Never been done before
Other than
MLB.
Other than the Brewers, they also won back-to-back.
Mickey Mouse Championship over there. You know who really went out and did this thing. All right, we are back-to-back Team Gold Glove Championship winners.
That's what really matters.
So you can fucking hang your hat on that, everybody. We're going to talk about that. Also the fact that, honestly, like, the guy that effectively carried us to that award kind of got robbed in another aspect of things. Bob Nightingale coming out here, linking the Toronto Blue Jays once again to Juan Soto. I know, we're all scared of it, but we're going to talk about it anyways. And then, of course, we are going to be answering some of the questions that you guys have submitted to our mailbag. If you are a listener of this program and you enjoy watching us and you have a question for us, the best way to get us to answer it is to submit it into our mailbag. It's in the description, guys. We promise we will get to every single question eventually. We're going to be doing anywhere from 3 to 5 basically a week. So we got a couple more of those that we're going to get into today. Welcome in, everybody. If you haven't already done so, hit the like, smash the subscribe button. Adam, tell me how you're feeling as a winner again, you know?
I mean, I could jokingly be like, oh yeah, this is our World Series. Yeah, Ross Atkins, the defense win, defensive mindset, preventing runs. Like, yeah, we did it. Like, congrats. But on a serious note, guys, like, I think this this back-to-back awards of winning the AL AL Team Gold Glove is it's a joke. I mean, because it really means that, yeah, defense doesn't win championships. And I post this on our Instagram, and a lot of people kind of felt the same way, where it's like, yeah, like, F this. Like, this whole mentality of going to trade for defense didn't work. But then there were a few other people that said, like, well, you still got to have good defense on your team because you go look at what the Yankees did in the postseason. And it's like, well, clearly defense lost them the World Series there. And you could definitely make that argument. And the defense could definitely be a basis of, where you can go from there. But I think it's like you need a balance of everything. We went so heavy into defense and pitching that we forgot to hit the baseball or even have players to hit the baseball and score runs. So, yeah, again, it's a little bit of a joke and like a participation trophy. Like, you did really good at this one thing, but it really actually didn't matter because in that span, in the last 2 years, we've won the AL Gold Glove Team Award. We were 163 and 161. Right. So we actually got worse, becoming a better defensive team.
Well, yeah, exactly. I do want to give a lot of credit to the, to the coaching staff that's responsible for the fielding aspect of things, then also the players that go out there every single day and get it done. And also credit to Ross Atkins in the sense of you wanted to make us more defensively sound, and you did it. Because a couple of years prior, there was no way that the Blue Jays were going to be up there for Team Gold Glove, right? Like, I remember a few years back when, Guerrero and Bo were still relatively new. It was like year 2, year 3 of them being in the league. And one of the biggest conversations was, well, we can't field a ball to save our lives. Yeah. And then, Ross Atkins obviously saw Bo Bichette and George Springer collide in center field, decided to address it, so much so that now we are back-to-back Team Gold Glove champions. But, of course, it hasn't really resulted in the win column. So, obviously, credit to all those players that did that. It is still an accomplishment, and I do agree with people in the sense of, well, it's a building block, right? You got that in your bag. You know that, okay, we can field the baseball properly. We can prevent runs when it is hit into play. We can do all of that. Now it's time to, add in all of the other things, like hitting home runs and, getting a sound bullpen and stringing, runners together, like everything, right? So it's good, but obviously, much, much more needs to be done here.
Yeah, like the Dodgers didn't win Team Gold Glove Award in the last 2 years. They didn't, right? So, and you go to see like, okay, well, they won the World Series. I think from this point forward, you got to retract from the defense. Like, you got to be able to sacrifice defense for runs, right? I'm talking about, the Dodgers brought over Teoscar Hernandez. He's not a great right fielder, and we know that. And we know that from him playing with the Toronto Blue Jays, but he helped them slug their way and had a positive win, run value in the postseason win percentage for the LA Dodgers. And that's the difference maker right there. We need to now subtract defense, sacrifice defense, and go in the direction of bringing in good quality hitters. So that's kind of my thought of it. Like, great, and good job, everybody. Good job. The big guys on the defense. George Springer's obviously a great defender. Obviously, Daulton Varsho was out there as well. And then, you did see Ernie Clement get nominated for Gold Glove. Alejandro Kirk stepped up in a big way. So it's we did have some great quality guys out there in the field. But now it's time to focus on, from a manager side of things and a front office side of things, adding in some guys who can drive and runs.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, it's going to piss me off to no end if I see them bring somebody in this offseason whose primary skill is defense, because we won the team Gold Glove last year, and then who do they bring in the offseason? A lot of guys whose primary skill was defense. They brought back Kevin Kiermaier. They brought in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Both of those guys, their whole resume was effectively, we can't hit the baseball, but we can't field the baseball.
Exactly.
So if we're going to be bringing in more guys like that, then, we're going to be the same 74-win team. Now I think it is time, and it was probably time a season ago, to go, okay, you know what? If they have defense, great. That's an added bonus. But even if their fielding run value is 0, if you can hit the baseball hard, you can be a Toronto Blue Jay, right? We don't need to add anything to what is already existing right there, because we know it's sound, we know it's strong. It is that building block, like a lot of people are saying. Now it's time to build off of it.
Yeah, I've always been a believer, and obviously this isn't a one, shoe size fits all kind of thing, but I'm always a strong believer of having a strong up the middle, and then you can sacrifice the defense on the outside parts of the field, right? You have a strong center fielder, you have the best actually center fielder in the entire baseball, Daulton Varsho out there. And then up the middle, you do have Bo Bichette, which has been a problem, and so we had to make it up in other areas, like having a good, third baseman right now in Ernie Clement, who's nominated for Gold Glove. Then you got to have a strong second baseman, whoever that's going to be. I think we could have a good time finding that guy. And then you have now Alejandro Kirk, who is one of the better catchers in all of baseball, even though he wasn't nominated for Gold Glove. I think that whole glove award thing is actually a pile of joke, because it isn't that serious, and we'll get to it in a little bit. But still, sound defensively up the middle, and then you can go and add some bats on the outsides.
Well, I got a lot of people in the chat right now asking, how was Varsho robbed? What happened with Daulton Varsho? And we'll talk about that right now, everybody. I mean, you had the Gold Glove Award, which he did win. So hats off to him. Well deserved. Then you have the Platinum Glove Award, which is the best defender in each respective league, the American League and the National League. Out of everybody, the best defender in baseball in your league. We thought it should have been Daulton Varsho. And we're not the only ones, because you got this post here from Talkin' Baseball presenting the winner being Cal Raleigh, who, let me be very clear, everybody, is very good at defense. He's a very quality player. I don't want to take anything away from his game. And this is deserved, right? It's not like they're just giving this to a nobody. There can be arguments made on the National League side of things. We were talking about that on our other show today, Bad for Baseball. Go check it out if you haven't already. The National League side of things is even more ridiculous than the American League side of things. But as you can see from some of the top comments here, Varsho was an absolute lock for this. Wow. You continue to scroll down. There's going to be so many. There he is. Daulton Varsho again. 50 likes on that comment. Varsho robbed yet again.
Yeah.
By all the metrics that we can see, and let's be very clear, we are not, fielding coaches, or we don't have that background that we can go that deep on it like maybe some other guys can. So if there's hidden metrics here that we're not familiar with, we don't know. But by all the metrics we can see, Daulton Varsho was kind of robbed here.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare a catcher to a center fielder. They play extremely different positions, but that's why they have the whole fielding run value to try and bring him into the same playing field, right? And anybody can go and look at this. And for years, the argument for a lot of people was, we're moving away from just a standard fielding percentage, because you do see, outfielders have a much better fielding percentage than a shortstop. Shortstops have one of the worst in all of baseball, yet they're coveted as one of the most best positions because of how hard it is, right? So you try to put them on the same playing field using this fielding run value, right? And Daulton Varsho was the best fielder in the American League in terms of fielding run value, and you could see it right here, where he's ranked in the 100th percentile. That is the top 1% at 17. He was the second best in all of MLB, just under Patrick Bailey in the National League side of things. Whereas when you look at Cal Raleigh, very good, like Nick was saying, 98th percentile, but only 14. So you could see how Daulton Varsho was better in that capacity of just pure fielding run value. And for me, that feels like a snub. And again, it's weird when you're trying to, I think baseball's in this weird in-between place right now, where it's like, we're not really sure whether we should trust our eyeball test, whether we should trust the fielding run value, whether we should trust the name value, whether we should trust, the fielding percentage and errors committed. Because Daulton Varsho committed 2 errors last year, Cal Raleigh committed 6, but obviously catchers commit a lot more errors. So what do you really weigh? If we're going based off something that's going to try and put them on an even playing field, for me, it's fielding run value. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And that is why I think Daulton Varsho was robbed, because for me, it was clear. He was the guy to win the Platinum Glove in the American League this year.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be one of those situations where they don't quite trust this algorithm yet, or this, formula, right? Because I would imagine, well, again, I have no idea what the math is, right? There's got to be some type of fucking formula that, calculates everything and fielding, percentage with the errors, with the difficulty of play. And
they take arm strength, arm value, range outs above average, like how much range can you cover in a certain field compared to other people in the league. The velocity of which you throw the baseball, the accuracy of which you throw a baseball. So like they calculate all that and they put out a number.
Stick out a number in there. Yeah. So again, it might be one of those situations where like some of the higher MLB executives and the people that are in fact voting on this don't fully buy into that yet. And I do think you got a good point there with all of these. There's so many different baseball statistics now, so many different sabermetrics. How much weight do you put on every single one of them? I've always been outspoken about how I don't agree with WAR, and I think that it doesn't make sense. And the more that I get into baseball, the more I'm like, I still don't understand it. Like, it doesn't add up to me. So maybe they're feeling the same way here. Either way, though, if we were to go based off of the eyeball test, I didn't watch every Mariners game. I didn't see everything that Cal Raleigh did. I'm sure that there was a lot of really incredible stuff there, but I did watch majority of Blue Jays games, and it really was every other game that Daulton Varsho was flying across the field and making some fucking over the shoulder or just like ridiculous range at like. There were so many times where I heard Dan and I heard Buck, just minds blown watching this guy doing something. And yeah, I do think that it probably is a pretty big snub. Again, guy won a Gold Glove, so you can still hang your hat on that. You can feel good about that, but probably deserved to be the Platinum Glove winner in my opinion.
He probably did too. And I'll make one more comparison as well. Alejandro Kirk wasn't even nominated for a Gold Glove. And again, let's take a couple numbers here. Cal Raleigh won the Platinum Glove and won the Gold Glove. He had 6 errors all season, and granted he played a lot more games than Alejandro Kirk, but Kirk committed 7. Okay, so 1 more error. But you look at the fielding run value, and they're not too far off. Kirk was 98th in baseball in fielding run value,
same as Cal.
Which was the exact same as Cal Raleigh.
14 fielding run value. Again, if you are to trust that formula, trust that algorithm, you could make an argument that Kirk and Raleigh are basically the same in terms of fielders, defenders.
Exactly, right? And then because of that, this is what makes it more ridiculous, where if Kirk wasn't even nominated, why is Kyle Raleigh, being very similar to Kirk, getting a Platinum Glove and a Gold Glove where he gets nothing, right? Not even a nomination. So that's for me where it also gets a little bit ridiculous, where Daulton Varsho was, for me, again, maybe bias is creeping in here, and probably is. Varsho is a clear number 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely a bit of bias here, but I mean, like, we get on Varsho all the time about the hitting side of things. And, as we should, right? There is a significant holes in his game there. But, I mean, I will be the most outspoken person on the planet when it comes to this guy's defensive capabilities and just how easy he makes things look. You watch those Yankee games in the World Series, not even just the inning where they, did their fucky stuff and, basically just gave the Dodgers, like 6 outs in one inning, right? Like they did that, But even outside of that, right, there were moments where, balls were hit over there and, various guys were like, taking horrible routes to them so that a single ended up being a double when it really should have just been a single. Or if Daulton Varsho was out there, it would have just been a single, right? Like there's multiple different moments where it's like, they did the job, but they didn't do the job nearly as well as Daulton Varsho would have been doing the job out there. And who knows? Maybe it would have saved them a game or two. I don't know. Not to say, but I do know that Daulton Varsho does it every single day, and he does it at a high level.
Yeah, and the entire Blue Jays do it as well. Eric's got a good stat here. We had 102 defensive runs saved. Cleveland at 89. We know they're a very good defensive team. LA and Milwaukee were in the mid-60s. Everyone else 50
That's
and
what I mean.
under. So
Mickey,
we're just pure
Mickey
dominant.
Mouse championship
Yeah.
there from Milwaukee.
Exactly.
Okay, we effectively doubled your team Gold Glove stat. So that
Oh, yeah, and I think last year, too, our outs above average as a team was like triple the second-place team of last year. So, yeah, it's ridiculous, guys. So, yeah, Blue Jays, very good at defending, but weird that the best defender on the team didn't get a platinum glove, and it's probably a big reason why we're the AL Gold Glove Team Award winner.
You would think that, right? So that's what's going on with Daulton Varsho. Let's transition, everybody, and talk a little bit about Juan Soto. Bob Nightingale has been notorious for, I want to be very clear, he's been notorious for getting things wrong. So take this with a grain of salt, everybody, because this is his prediction. This is what he thinks. He was the guy that debunked the whole Shohei Ohtani on the play and everything like that. So he's got a couple things, right to his name, but he's also said a lot of things that are not right either. He's saying that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to go out and they are going to win the Juan Soto sweepstakes, spending $630 million to put him in Toronto Blue Jays blue. That is outbidding Steve Cohen. That is outbidding Hal Steinbrenner. That is outbidding the LA Dodgers. That's outbidding everybody. Toronto Blue Jays swoops in here and steals away the biggest free agent. And his reasoning is kind of similar to what I've been saying as to why I may be slightly optimistic about us going out and getting Juan Soto, in the sense of, we got $700 million. We didn't spend it last year.
Right.
If you were really heartbroken about not spending it, maybe you do it this year. What do you think about this? Is Bob Nightingale just talking out of his arse?
No, well, I would say no, he's not, because, I mean, yeah, like, we did have $700 million to spend. Now, granted, we've talked about this before, where we were comfortable, we could have been comfortable spending $700 million because we could see the return on investment with an Ohtani deal versus a Soto deal. We're not really sure. I mean, I think the one way the Soto deal works out is if you really have a team that goes deep into a postseason run or to a World Series.
You're getting that postseason revenue coming.
Exactly. Whereas, but when you spend if you're predicted to spend $630 million on Juan Soto, that's not the only money you're going to be spending. You're going to be spending way more. Like, seriously, I think the Blue Jays would have to have a similar to Dodgers last year offseason in terms of spending, like closing in to $1 billion, if not more, in committed money to bring this team back to that type of level, which I think is very uncharted territory, like very uncharted territory for this Toronto Blue Jays franchise. And I'm saying it's impossible, but highly unlikely. It's a bold take. I mean, if you're going to have a bold take, I would say the Toronto Blue Jays would be, because that take, and the favorable bold take, because of the fact that we had almost Ohtani in a plane in Toronto, but we didn't, right? So, yes, I think it's a prediction, a bold prediction, but highly unlikely.
Yeah, I do think that Bob's trying to be different here.
He's trying to be different.
And I get it, right? Like, when you're, somebody like Bob, even like us too, right? When you're making content on a daily basis, you don't want to say the same boring stuff all over again. Oh, yeah, predicting the Yankees are going to re-sign Juan Soto, right? Like, that's boring. People read that already. Let's put the Blue Jays in there and, come up with the reason as to why they might do it. And there are valid reasons in his argument. However, we have also heard Steve Cohen and Hal.
Yeah.
They're both flying out to California this week to meet with Scott Boras, to meet with Juan Soto, to lay out the plan, the Juan Soto plan, how we're going to give you $600 to $700 million and how we're going to win multiple championships with you in either pinstripes or in the Queens. That's what they're doing right now. I have not heard jack shit about Ross Atkins or Edward Rogers or whomstever flying out to California. Maybe they're doing this, so secretly. They're having these little clandestine meetings, but I highly doubt it, everybody. Yeah. Steve Cohen is committed. Hal Steinbrenner is committed. That's the one thing, right? The one guy he can't lose to is Steve.
Right.
Because then do you know how embarrassing that's going to be?
Yeah.
Just moving over, you just take the subway to move all your shit over to the New York Mets. You can't let that happen. That could be so embarrassing. I just don't see any reality where we are going to be capable of keeping up with those two guys who are in their own, kind of like duel to the death of New York, it feels like. And Toronto Blue Jays are going to swoop in here with 630 and go, here you go, and Juan Soto's going to set that. I just don't see that.
Yeah, if we ever do, it's going to be what a lot of people are saying here. We're going to be used as leverage again. Like, I hope just for the fun of the offseason, we hear something that, Ross Atkins is coming in and he is dropping in an offer on the table. And I hope, and we probably will hear this. I brought this up on the show where Scott Boras loves to mix in the media into this shit. He's got a lot of connections, obviously, Scott Boras. So whenever the Blue Jays, if they do go meet with him, we're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
And he's going to throw our name into the mix because he knows Blue Jays are going to be desperate, which is going to make everybody else, the New York teams, jack up the price. So it's probably, I would predict that we will hear that. We will hear, maybe it hasn't happened yet. It's only November 11th. But hey, I think it's going to happen and that'll be exciting, but don't get your hopes up because, I do think it's leverage. Absolutely.
Exactly. Right? And here's the other thing that's big time wrong with Bob Nightingale's prediction right there. If you're going to predict the Toronto Blue Jays to walk away winners in the Soto sweepstakes, tack a 7 in front of that number instead of a 6.
Yep.
If it's 730 that you're predicting, okay. I think that would do it. That would actually push it over the finish line.
Because that's 14 years is what he's predicting, right? So
I think that would
better.
push it over the finish line. Is that too much to spend on Juan Soto? Probably. But if you're actually going to predict the Toronto Blue Jays to walk away victorious when you do have Steve Cohen and when you do have Hal Steinbrenner, dueling it out with one another, I think the number's got to start with a 7. 630, when those two guys are going to be as in on this as they are going to be, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, let me just put it this way, guys. I think the fact, you're looking at two juggernauts right here. If I'm thinking of on a baseball field standpoint, I think the odds of us winning the World Series is the same as us getting Juan Soto, right? The odds of us winning the World Series next year, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? You're looking at two juggernauts, but hey, again, if it was 630, I know a lot of people are saying he's not worth Ohtani money, and maybe you're right, maybe you're not. It depends on what happens over that time, but. If it does happen, sign me up for 630. That'd be great.
Well, 630 would be honestly a steal when you're considering all of these different things.
Yeah, it needs to be a 7, and that's again, if it does happen, let's hypothetical. We're not being serious here, guys. Hypothetically, if Juan Soto came to the Toronto Blue Jays for $700 million, would you be happy?
Of course.
100%. It's not my money. I don't care.
I don't care, man.
This is a $10 billion organization that's running the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't care.
No, I mean,
don't care.
I will be buying the jersey immediately. I will be buying probably tickets to the season opener immediately because I'm going to want to watch that guy annihilate baseballs in Blue Jays blue. That's as far as we're going to go down fantasy land. I don't want to go there anymore because it's just going to hurt us later down the line. But that's what Bob Nightingale is saying right now about the Toronto Blue Jays and Juan Soto. Take it with a grain of salt. Jin K asking for $2 donation right there. Shout out to you. How do you guys like Soto for $650 for 13 years? Like we just said, love it. Sign me up. Don't care. Let's win all of the games and get a championship and get a ring and everything like that. I'm fine.
Cool.
Give me Juan Soto. Doesn't matter to me.
But everyone now, take a moment to remove that from your brain so that you forget all about it. Don't worry about it. Don't count your chickens before they hatch and move on. Let's focus on some other real things.
I will actually, just before we finish, there's very few players where I don't care about the money.
Yeah.
I guess Juan Soto is one of them for me. The number is going to be so ridiculous anyways that seriously, maybe this is, I don't know, this feels like a first world thing to say, and maybe it's ignorant of me, but 650, 700.
Yeah.
What's the big difference?
What's the big? For a $1 billion company. Yeah. What is the big difference?
It's we're already up here in La La Land.
Yeah, what are we doing here, guys? There's so many more problems that could be solved. That's also another note, too. Not to get, totally derail this conversation, but we're just splashing around hundreds of millions of dollars like it's nothing for one guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's
crazy.
All right, well, let's move on to talk about something that's, actually kind of happening, and we won't spend too much time on this. I just saw this morning, which I thought was kind of interesting. Does anyone remember Gosuke Kato? Remember that one little stint he had with the Blue Jays in 2022 when he was a middle infielder, and I think he spent a couple games with the Jays, and then immediately got sent back down to the minors. Well, he's retired from baseball, and apparently, for those who don't like Ross Atkins, maybe this changes things. He's going to join the Blue Jays front office, and we don't know what his role is going to be, but he's apparently there with the group, with the team, with Ross Atkins, and is going to be involved in something that we don't know yet. But, hey, welcome to the team, Gosuke. Hopefully you can maybe make some changes here in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I like the idea that we're bringing people back that we've had before.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think his playing career was like anything to write home about.
No, but that, you know, doesn't mean he can't be an impact in some way. You never know.
For sure, right? There's a bunch of stuff that, you know, he could or could not do. I like that we're making changes. I like that we're bringing in new ideas. We'll see what his role kind of develops into, because we're not entirely sure exactly what that's going to look like yet. But at this point, like, you know, I'm certainly not going to complain about having more different opinions coming into the Blue Jays, because it's very clear that, like, you know, the current opinions aren't working.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
also like what Eric's saying here, connections in Japan.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know,
Yeah.
Put in a good word for Roki Sasaki for us.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
don't you go,
Exactly.
Kato? That would be great.
I love how we got our good Kato, and then, you know, Dodgers have Yamamoto and Otani.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, Kato will help convince Roki to come over.
This is all we got, man. This is all we can do, okay?
Damn it! This is why we need to bring Yusei back. You know?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, like that'd be our big, like, you know, ace to bring in negotiations over from the MPB, you know? Like,
also, you know, for everybody wondering if we can go out and get Roki Sasaki, like, I know that, you know, again, it's one of those things, like, Blue Jays have been rumored, Blue Jays have been linked to, and we have had a history before of going out and signing international players. I mean, like last year, like, different, but, you know, signed Yariel Rodriguez, and, you know, we've signed a bunch of different international guys before, so it's not like it's impossible. But when you're talking about somebody that is, like, this coveted, like, so much so to the point that people have him ranked as, like, the second best free agent on the market this year, like ahead of Corbin Burns, ahead of Max Fried, ahead of Pete Alonso. When you're talking about somebody that's, like, this coveted, it just, like, if I'm him, let's be completely real with ourselves. If I am that guy, do I want to go to this 74-win team in in Canada? No disrespect to Canada.
no,
I love
I'm
Canada. I live
Canadian,
in Canada.
so yeah.
Or
versus...
do I want to go to the, you know, World Series champions, LA Dodgers, where my probable hero in Shohei Ohtani and other probable hero in Yoshinobu Yamamoto are currently signed to decade-long contracts?
Yeah, that's easy for me.
I don't know, man.
That's an easy decision.
Yeah,
Why? You know what I mean? The only way is, like, my wife is living in Toronto.
Sure.
And it's like a big family
I gotta have
decision,
some type of, like, big connection here.
Or else I'm not coming.
Yeah,
it's not
just
even
like
close.
it just makes sense, and so I don't know. Like, I hate kind of pouring water on that fire. If anybody was really excited about it, he is somebody to get excited for, and it's one of those. It's actually a game changer because you immediately acquire somebody who is a top tier talent and who could literally be in there for Cy Young conversations, with what I've heard, and you're going to be paying him like $1-2 million. So like, it is so much of a game changer, and that's why he is so coveted and so valuable. He's going to LA.
Yeah, he's going to LA, guys. So I almost don't want to buy into that because what do you think's more realistic? Blue Jays signing Juan Soto or signing Sasaki?
Soto.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely think it's Soto, man.
I
It just
agree.
because, like, I don't see... If you're going to... And this is another thing, too, for people to understand the whole situation. You know, Roki Sasaki, being 23 years old, he has to sign a rookie deal, which means that he's going to be locked on said ball club for 6 years' time. If he would have waited 2 more years and performed at the level that he has performed in Japan, he would be signing Yoshinobu Yamamoto, maybe even more than that,
probably more.
contract.
Yeah.
You know, 350, you know, 360, 70 million dollar contract. If he would have waited 2 years, the fact that he is sacrificing that money to then have 4 more years under contract on a rookie deal, if you're doing that, like, I just think that you want to play with winners.
That's it.
You want
That's
to win. Like, your main goal is, I want to start my legacy in MLB. I want to be known maybe one of these days as the best Japanese pitcher of all time, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if I start at 23, I got a real shot at doing that. If I am as good as everyone says, I don't think he does that in Toronto.
No, I absolutely agree. All right, well, let's move on to another topic here, everybody. This one was actually kind of talked about online. I've been seeing a lot of quotes about this. Kevin Kiermaier, you know, a lot of people were kind of twisting his words a little bit and kind of saying that he was slamming the Blue Jays front office or whatnot. No, he wasn't. He wasn't slamming the Blue Jays front office. Kevin Kiermaier was just interviewed, and he was talking about how great the Dodgers front office was. I think a lot of people were kind of saying, well, is that slamming the Blue Jays? Maybe unintentionally, like saying that like the Dodgers are a better organization than the Toronto Blue Jays. But that's exactly what he was saying. Like, he really enjoyed his time in LA, and he was saying he was quite impressed by how advanced the scouting reports were from a position player standpoint, and how blown away he was in the first meetings. They were just on so point with everything, right? It gave him everything he needed. But he did say, to continue to talk about Toronto Blue Jays on Mike Wilner's podcast, saying that he loved his time with the Toronto Blue Jays and actually wanted to come back in some sort of form or capacity and help out the team. So just a little shout out to Kevin Kiermaier, still, appreciating his time and appreciating the Toronto Blue Jay fans, everything that we've done for him. And hey, I mean, it goes to show that, yeah, the LA Dodgers are just a beast.
Well, frankly, anybody that's spinning this in the sense of like Kevin Kiermaier slamming the Blue Jays or talking badly about the Blue Jays, like, I don't think that's the case, man. I just think that this is what it is, and the LA Dodgers are better than we are. I can say that with my whole chest and not feel bad about it, right? Like, we know 100%. That that's the case. They are a better run organization, and they win more than we do, and they have better players than we do. And honestly, like, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could come out and say that tomorrow, and I'd be like, yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
No, that makes sense.
That's literally just the case. So I don't think he's slamming the Jays. I think that this is more just like credit to the Dodgers. I think that Kevin Kiermaier appreciated his time here with Toronto. Did okay with us, and from his standpoint too, factor in he's had a long career, and he just won a ring with LA. So of course he's going to show gratitude to those Dodgers for giving him that opportunity.
Oh yeah, I mean, hell yeah, right? And look, he's going to be retiring this season, and apparently Soapy coming here saying he's coming to visit us in spring training. Shout out, respect, and be involved in some capacity, maybe in the defense side of things. Not like we need it, but good guy, Kevin Kiermaier. All right, guys, let's give a real quick shout out to the sponsor of this Blue Jays Today show. Before we get to your mailbag questions, guys, shout out to Betway.
Hey guys, time for a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code down below or click the link in the description to join the action. Available in Ontario only, must be 19 years older to participate, and guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Shout out to Betway, everybody, for being absolutely phenomenal, guys. For those sports bettors out there, big-time football game tonight. Miami Dolphins up against the LA Rams. LA favorited, probably as they should be. Or are those lines written in? I feel like
they are.
Oh.
Yeah, Dolphins and Rams.
Oh, Dolphins are favorited then.
Dolphins are favorited right now, they switched up.
Wow, I did not expect that. I thought that the Rams would be favorited. Rams are at home, though. Should be a fun baseball game, or football game, excuse me. Lots of high-powered offenses in this one, folks. So who are you riding with here?
I'm honestly going with the LA Rams right now. The Rams, they've been on the up and up swing. The Dolphins, for me, honestly, guys, like, I don't know why people are starting to take the Dolphins right now. I mean, like, they lost 2 in a row. They look kind of like they almost beat the Bills last week, but that whole team has just been out of sorts the entire season. So for me, I'm going with the LA Rams.
All right, there you have it, everybody. Let us know who you are riding with, and please scan the QR code. It really does help the podcast out a lot if you're looking to support. We asked you guys for questions. You gave us questions. Let's dive into those right now from the mailbag. If you want to submit, guys, the link is in the description. We're going to be answering anywhere from 3 to 5 questions every single Monday, every single Friday on our Blue Jays Today show. So join in. We got a question from Brandon here saying, what do you think is the future of Chris Basset on the Blue Jays? I've been thinking about it, but not sure if they should trade or keep him. Chris Basset, coming off of his worst year as a major leaguer, man. 1 year left on his deal. Do you think that he finishes off next season in Blue Jays blue?
I do think he will play next season. I mean, if everything's true with what Ross Atkins is talking about, then he is going to be committed to winning. And, obviously Chris Bass had a down year last year, but that's the exact reason why you got to kind of ride with him still. I mean, he's $20 million, he's older, and if you had a down year, like, maybe some people aren't going to be jumping at the gun and kind of trade for Chris Bassett right now when you got a bunch of people on the free agent market. So for me, I think he's going to stick with us for 1 more year, but after that, like, because everyone's coming off the books, there's no need to, like, think about him beyond 2025.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Chris Bassett is not going to be a Blue Jay in 2026. I would be shocked if he got extended in any capacity. In fact, I would even go to say that there's a very strong chance that he doesn't finish next season with Toronto.
Yeah.
Because if we're being really honest with ourselves, the chance of us being buyers compared to sellers at next year's trade deadline, I I think it's higher that we're going to be sellers, right? Unless, of course, this offseason goes crazy and, we get off to a really hot start. I think that there's a good chance that we're going to be sellers. And Chris Basset, if he bounces back in some capacity, being on the last year of his deal, if you can negotiate something where you take a little bit of that money maybe, because he is still getting paid a lot, I think that a team would be very interested. Again, he's got to be performing at, a solid level. So if he's completely fallen off the table, then sorry, guys, he won't finish with us, and that's just going to be the way it is.
Well,
but I think that this is somebody that is going to start with the team.
Hey, guys, time for a quick shout-out to the
team,
sponsor
based on
of
how
this
we're
video.
doing.
Hit your...
sorry, go ahead. I just cut you off there.
Yeah, no problem. He's going to start with the team based on how we're doing. Like, he could finish with us, or honestly, he could be really good trade bait.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. I would be shocked if anything else were to happen before the season began. He's going to be a Blue Jay to start the year in that rotation. I'm just pulling up another question here, guys. We've got a question from Hunter Martell. Hunter Martell, and they're saying here, everybody, just give me one moment. Got to do the whole copy and paste from our spreadsheets here. Hunter's saying, bang, if the Blue Jays do not get picks 1 or 2 in this upcoming draft lottery, which are the more obvious picks, Holiday and Laviolette, what prospects do you guys think, what prospects would you guys like to see the Blue Jays land? Also, how would you guys go about the draft if you were the Toronto Blue Jays? Now, first things first, I'm going to say this complete transparency. After Holiday and Laviolette, I have not done my research to figure out what guys I'd be going for, but for me, it's the type of personnel that I'd be looking for. If I am the Toronto Blue Jays and, we're in the middle of next season, that's when the draft is going to be. If my team is kicking ass, we're back on track, everything's looking good, I've extended Vladdy, we look like our window's opening up just a little bit to try to compete now, I'm looking at college players right now, and I'm looking to try and hit big at the best player available. It's simple as that. The draft is all over the place. Mike Trout was drafted behind Randall Grichuk. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could hit big anywhere. For me, just pick the best player available and hope you ride with it. But the only difference is, depending on your timeline as a team, if you're winning right now, draft college guys so you can try to compete immediately. And then if you're rebuilding, if you're not looking good this season, maybe you could open up the doors for maybe someone like a high school or whatnot. Granted, Holiday, very different. That's the only high school player I'd be gunning for right away, because he is almost ready to compete out of the gate.
I think I'm largely the same as you. I would also maybe put a bit more emphasis on best player available, because I do think we're probably gonna be a top 6 pick. If we're not 1 or 2, well, if we're 4,
right?
I mean, and there's because again, we haven't done a research. I don't know the other high school players after Holiday.
Right.
But if there's a really other good high school player that's sitting there, and he's projected to go top 5 type thing, it's rare that you end up with a top 5 selection and you get one of those guys. I know that anything can happen in baseball. That you're still waiting on this kid for 4 years, potentially, right? So the development might not get there. But I do think having such a high draft pick, if you can snag one of the highly touted individuals, even if he is a high schooler, I say go for it. However, I would agree with you that I'd put more of an emphasis on a college-ready guy, especially if Guerrero's extended, and we are winning ball games, and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, well, maybe this guy could come up in 26, or maybe, latest 2027, and we can feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good question. Thank you, man. We got one in here from Mr. Bloopy. Shout out as an OG right here, Mr. Bloopy. Their question is, which of the young players who made their debuts this season do you think will most likely be trade bait this offseason? This is a good question because we're all attached to these young guys that came up this season. Let me toss it over to you, Nick. What do you think? Which player that came up and made the debut this year for the Toronto Blue Jays is most likely trade bait?
That is a really good one. I always go back to that kind of logjam in especially the infield. But I think about the second base. I think about the third base bag. Something's got to go on there. There's got to be some type of sacrifice. Is it an Addison Barger? Is that somebody that, made his debut this year and, because he primarily slots in at that second, third base kind of middle infield area, well, do we get rid of him? are you willing to sacrifice a Spencer Horwitz and give up that upside for maybe an elite bullpen arm if somebody's willing to pay up for it? Potentially. I really do think that this question is open-ended in the sense of the return that you're getting back, you know? I'm almost available to trade anybody, really, because, you know, it's not like we have a Jackson Holiday level talent. Even though, Spencer Horwitz came up and he was really, really good, I could also see the other shoe dropping and him having a low 700 OPS season and you know, not really panning out the way that we wanted to.
Yeah.
So no one is off limits for me. It's more about if the other team's calling, what are you willing to give up for the person that you're calling about?
Yeah, like I tend to agree. Now, if I were to give like a most likely kind of situation, you know, probably I would go Addison Varsho because it does feel like he's that utility man out of this whole situation. And obviously, we're not talking about David Steiner because, you know, he's also kind of that utility role kind of guy. But if we're just talking about players who made their debut, I'd probably say Addison Varsho because...
What about, sorry to cut you off, but what about Jimenez as well in that?
Jimenez, like, I don't know, like, Jimenez, the value is, like, a lot less for me. I think Varsho provides a little bit more value just because of the prospect pedigree, the multiple positions, and he is a very intriguing prospect where it looks like he's got upside to hit for some pretty big power. Whereas Jimenez kind of just, for me, feels like a Blue Jays easy slot in, like, backup shortstop kind of situation. For me, that's the most likely guy because I know people are saying Horwitz. Horwitz definitely has the most value because he's the most proven guy over a longer track record and can play first and second, so there's a little bit of versatility there. So yeah, obviously he'd have the most value, but then the other shoe drops, or the other question is, why are we trading a guy who we know we feel comfortable playing him every single day? So you don't really want to do that, whereas Varsho is kind of that bench guy that should probably get everyday playing time somewhere to develop, but we haven't found him a place on this team just yet. So for me, it'd be Varsho. I like Varsho, but that's what it'd be for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Good question right there, everybody. Final question right here from Finley asking, does the all-in on Soto scare you regarding what happened last year with Ohtani? Because after we didn't get him, everyone else was signed. We were sitting there with our, I think you guys can figure out what that says, in our hand. Seems like a sequel to this movie. Shout out to Finley for submitting that question right there. Yeah, it does. Especially because this year, I think the odds of us actually walking away with Juan Soto are a lot less than the odds of us walking with Ohtani last year. I think that there was an actual chance. Now, you know, a limited opportunity. Who knows? Maybe he was always Dodgers all the way and it was never anybody else. That maybe could have been the case. But it felt like we were actually involved there. This one, if Ross Atkins seriously is going all in for Juan Soto, you better cross the finish line. Like, that's what I got to say about that, because you know the other players that are coming to the table. You know who you're going to have to outbid. If you are really serious about getting this guy in Toronto, then make it happen. Cross the finish line. If not, submit your offer, walk away, and then deal with everybody else.
Yeah, like for me, I think that's the reason why I'm not scared, because I don't expect us to get him, so I'm not scared at all. Now, I mean, maybe some people are scared of the fact that we're going to get distracted and go look at like other free agents, which we did last year, but I hope that they learned our lesson, that we didn't have a pivot after Ohtani. And yeah, do what Nick says. Submit your offer, go fix the rest of your team. That's why I'm not really scared about the going all in. Like all in, like offer the offer that you're willing to offer. But that's it, and then move on, right?
It really does come down to the management by Ross Atkins, right? You know, if you are, like, if you get into the tunnel vision of it's Juan Soto or it's bust type thing, and then you forget about everybody else, then yeah, we're fucked. Because if you don't walk away with Juan Soto, we're going to be doing the exact same thing that we did last year. So that's why, if that's your mentality, if it really is tunnel vision on Juan Soto, we're going to give him, we're going to do everything we can. You have to cross the finish line. You cannot have what happened to you last year. You can't get embarrassed like that. That was embarrassing. We were getting memed by everyone.
Bro.
You know, I mean, like even
we were part of it too. You know?
Right. But you know, like even Dodgers fans were actually relatively good about it. But all the other teams, like Yankee fans, were coming out here and memeing the Toronto Blue Jays. Right. Yeah. I don't want to be in that situation again, and I know that Ross Atkins doesn't want to be in that situation again. So if you're going all out for Soto, make it happen, or do your thing and then get me an Alonso. Get me a Tanner Scott. Get me a guy.
Right,
Okay, we can't do the Kevin Kiermaier experiment again, even though he is going to go visit us in spring training.
That's cool,
which is nice.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, there's got to be a pivot here.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, let us know your thoughts about everything we talked about in the chat down below as well, guys. Mailbag, the questions that we pulled up in this video, the link is in the description to submit your questions. If you submitted one and it has not been read, just hold out. You know, we are going to keep looking. We're going to keep looking at it. Like, this was just from our first day that we announced this thing. So keep on submitting those questions, and we'll eventually get to it onto our next Blue Jays Today show this coming Friday.
Yeah,
guys.
shout out to everybody that's watching along, guys. Hit the like, smash the subscribe button. A lot more live streams coming down the pipeline as more information gets revealed about this Toronto Blue Jays free agency. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, submit the questions like we said. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and as always,
Go Jays, go!